afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and welcome to Global Atheist News Roundup, dateline 19th of August 2023. This week's headlines. In Pakistan, more than 100 were arrested after churches were burned. Afghan women escape for a chance at education. And should world leaders start talking to the Taliban? A Lahaina church finds sanctuary in a cafe. A Canadian couple win damages from the Italian ruling party. Support for the Barbie movie in MENA is lacking. The Hillsong pastor is found not guilty of covering up child sex abuse. The Secular Society of Australia is worried about the future of secular public education. A Catholic priest delivers a fiery presentation, and a Tennessee pastor gets mad over the Barbie movie. Violence in Jaranwala, Pakistan, was sparked by claims that two Christian men had torn pages from a copy of the Quran. Authorities said torn pages of the sacred text with blasphemous content allegedly scribbled on them in red marker ink were found near a Christian community. More than 600 people have been arrested in the East Pakistan city after thousands of Muslims burned churches and vandalized homes. Police told the BBC that possessions like furniture belonging to Christians were pulled into the streets and set on fire. The historic Salvation Army Church was still smouldering on Thursday, one day after the riot. Ruins have been surrounded with barbed wire as the situation remains tense. The two accused have been arrested and are being investigated for blasphemy, which is punishable by death in Pakistan. While some have been sentenced to death in the past, it has never been carried out. However, a mere accusation of blasphemy can result in widespread riots, sometimes leading to lynchings and killings. Videos posted on social media showed local Muslim leaders using their mosque loudspeakers to urge their followers to demonstrate. Christians have desecrated the Holy Quran, they shouted from their minarets. All the clerics, all the Muslims should unite and gather in front of the mosque. Better to die if you don't care about Islam. Ahad Noor, a district government official, said, "There's a standoff between the police and the crowds. The crowds are not backing down. Police and rangers have been deployed to control the situation." The Right Reverend Azad Marshall, a bishop in the neighbouring city of Lahore, said the Christian community was deeply pained and distressed. In her university room in Bangladesh, Nina, 19, holds her boxing gloves up to her face, staring into the mirror. She is learning to protect herself. She says there's no other way. Nina is one of hundreds of Afghan women who have taken up the offer of an education abroad, despite knowing they may never be able to return home. Nearly 12 months ago, walking through Kabul airport, she says she felt far less strong. She remembers her hands shaking. She knew it was dangerous to flee Afghanistan. When airport officials questioned her, she lied. The Taliban don't allow women to travel alone, so I said my mother was sick in Pakistan, and she was relieved when they were convinced. But a harder challenge was yet to come. As Nina stepped onto the plane, She stepped away from her home and family. On the day when I left, I was crying that I might never see my mother's face again. It was so hard for me, she says. It broke my younger sister's heart. When I think about them, it hurts. Nina's parents encouraged her to go to Bangladesh, but she says she is worried about leaving them behind and the risk to them. She also found it difficult to adapt to a whole new culture and language. But by her second semester, she had created a boxing club, and now she has 50 female students in her class. She believes self-defense and strength for women is important. I've always wanted to be able to protect myself, and I want to teach others to do the same, she says. For 7 years, she worked hard at school in Afghanistan and regularly boxed at the gym. But then, in August 2021, I couldn't go to the gym. I couldn't continue my education. I couldn't even go outside. In the 2 years since the Taliban swept into power in Afghanistan, not a single country has formally recognized their rule. Even engaging with the Taliban government remains deeply controversial. Some say talking with them will help bring about change. Others insist the Taliban will never change, so there's no point in talking. And as the world struggles to decide how to deal with Afghanistan's new rulers, women's rights, even their beauty salons, have become front lines in political battles. Beautician Sakina, in a dimly lit room, curtains tightly drawn, alongside bunches of lip pencils and gleaming palettes of eyeshadow, reflects on why she feels women like her have become a bargaining chip. The Taliban are putting pressure on women because they want to push the international community to recognize their rule, she says in her new secret salon in Kabul. She was forced underground 2 weeks ago after the government ordered all women's beauty parlors to shut. It is the latest in a seemingly endless raft of decrees restricting the lives and liberties of Afghan women and girls. Sakina is uncertain what approach to the Taliban might work. If the Taliban are accepted as the government, they might remove restrictions on us, or they could impose even more, she says, with the kind of uncertainty and anxiety that plagues this huge, sensitive political issue. The Taliban insist that issues like women's rights are none of the world's business. As relief teams are assessing the damage and death toll of the Maui fires, residents have begun to pick up the pieces. One congregation met in a coffee shop after their church burned down. Members of Grace Baptist Church, many of them now homeless, gathered on Sunday and described daring escapes from the fire. See this video.
One of the police officers sent me the pictures. It used to be my house. I wept. The weeping is not a lack of faith. Thank God that He gave us tears.
Amazing. I don't think it'll ever be the same. I hope it'll be better. So that's my prayer, and I believe that. I think one day, it can be an even better Lahaina than it was. Hopefully, and that's what I hope at least. Yeah.
We're gonna build ourselves up. We're gonna shake ourselves up, and we're gonna keep going forward. We're not broken. The place might be for now, but it won't stay that way.
Family on the mainland are trying to get me to move back. And my son told my daughter, he said, "You don't get it. Dad's going to die there." 'Cause that's his home. It's our home. But we'll come back. We'll survive. We'll get through this.
Italy's far-right ruling party have been ordered to pay damages to a same-sex couple for using a photo of them with their newborn son without their consent in an anti-surrogacy campaign. Italian PM Giorgia Meloni leads the most right-wing government since World War II. Brothers of Italy is a political descendant of the Italian social movement, which was formed by members of Mussolini's fascist party after the war. In March, it instructed Milan's city council to stop registering the children of same-sex parents, leading to protests. B.J. Baroni and Frankie Nelson welcomed their son Milo with the help of a surrogate mother in 2014. A photo of that moment went viral, but it was then used by Brothers of Italy, Fratelli d'Italia, in 2016. And that party has been ordered to pay the couple €10,000 each. They were ordered to pay for the offensive use of the image after Italian LGBT law firm Gay Lex took on the case. Fratelli d'Italia is appealing the decision. The couple told the BBC, "This is a small win for us, but it is a huge victory for the LGBTQ+ community in Italy and abroad. To us, our birth photo represents everything that we stand for: family, acceptance, and unconditional love. This victory against Fratelli and the Prime Minister allows us to reclaim our photo and show the world that family is about love." Algeria has reportedly pulled the Barbie movie from national cinemas, joining many countries in the Middle East and North Africa region, MENA, in banning the film for allegedly violating morality. The MENA region is among the hardest hit by climate change. The rivers of Iraq are drying up, the greenery of the entire Mediterranean basin has been on fire, and warming temperatures are on the verge of turning vast swathes of the Arab world into uninhabitable wastelands. The authorities and politicians have responded bravely, doubling down on fossil fuels, but the Barbie movie is an even bigger problem, apparently. The Australian Labor Party is about to abandon its long-held commitment to secular public education. Labor has removed its support for universal, free, and secular public education from its national policy document ahead of the party's national conference this week. See this video.
Hi, I'm Meredith Doy, President of the Rationalist Society of Australia. Our patron, Michael Kirby, the former High Court judge, has been a long-term supporter and promoter of the notion of secularism in Australia. In fact, he's written this: "Secularism is one of the most important developments in English legal history and one of the greatest gifts we've received from our British heritage. And this is particularly so in our public schools." And yet, incredibly, the Albanese Labor government is proposing at its national conference, which is coming up in Brisbane on the 17th of August, to drop the Labor Party's long-standing commitment to a secular public education system. Now, both the Labor Party and the coalition government have tolerated for far too long the incursion into a public school system of religious missionaries in the form of chaplains funded under the National Schools Chaplaincy Program, or through so-called special religious education, which is really instruction in the doctrines of religions. So if you happen to be a Labor Party member, please write to the ALP, write to Albanese and say you care about secular education, and in particular, secular public education. Let's keep our public schools free of the incursion by these religious missionaries seeking to make our public schools mission fields.
Brian Houston, the founder of the Australian megachurch Hillsong, is today a free man after he was acquitted of the crime of covering up child sexual abuse. Houston recently stood trial in a Sydney court on charges stemming from his decision not to report his father's child sex abuse to the police. Frank Houston, the father, confessed to repeatedly sexually assaulting a young boy who was part of the church community where he preached. The trial revolved around whether Brian should have reported this confession to the authorities. Frank Houston's appalling actions came to light when he confessed to his son Brian back in 1999, and Brian, in turn, reported that confession to senior church members but opted not to involve the police. Frank Houston passed away in 2004 without facing any charges. During this trial, Brian Houston acknowledged that he had since learned of his father's serial paedophilia, stating, "I have no doubt now that my father was a serial paedophile and will probably never know the extent of it." The heart of the trial hinged on Brian's assertion that he had a reasonable excuse for not reporting his father's crimes to the police. According to him, this was in line with the victim's wishes, as the victim explicitly told him not to report the matter. This claim was central to Houston's defense, and the trial sought to determine whether this excuse held water. In an unexpected twist, the victim of Houston Sr.'s abuse, a man named Brett Sengstock, waived his right to anonymity and gave evidence in the trial. Sengstock revealed that the abuse began when he was just 7 years old and escalated over the years. Shockingly, he detailed how Brian Houston's father repeatedly raped him in his Sydney home. Despite Sengstock's testimony, Brian Houston maintained that he was under the impression that Sengstock did not want the matter reported to the police. Fast forward to the trial's verdict, and the magistrate ruled in favour of Brian Houston's acquittal, believing that there was little doubt that Houston was aware of the victim's historic wishes not to involve the police, thus providing him with a reasonable excuse for not reporting the matter. Fire and brimstone is not the exclusive purview of evangelicals. See this Roman Catholic priest's video.
Listen to what I'm telling you. I don't care where you go to service, but if you're not in the Catholic Church as a Catholic, you're not receiving the Eucharist. So your chances for eternal life become extremely mitigated. What I'm trying to get you to understand is you can't just kind of pick and choose which commandments. You can't pick and choose whether you're in. You're either in or you're out. You're either Catholic or you're not. You're either walking towards him or you're walking away from him, especially with the Mass and the Eucharist. It is everything. I keep telling you that if I'm not in you and you're not in me, you will not. No.
A Tennessee pastor gets big mad over the Barbie movie and smashes a dream house with a baseball bat covered in Bibles. See this video.
The demon comes out when you expel it. The stronghold comes down when you demolish it with the Bible.
Stay on this channel to watch Tercia and I interview Mariette Harcum, an archaeologist who studied biblical lands. You can join in and ask her questions. It's a live show. And don't forget to watch Views on the News, the show where our opinionated panel give their views on the items I have just reported on. This has been Global Atheist News. Please like, subscribe and share. Thank you for watching.